Hello and welcome to Module 4, all about behaviors. So, this is a big one for a lot of folks because a lot of neurodivergent children have so much frustration and so many different sensations going on inside their body, and they can't communicate them, or something is wrong, and they get their fight or flight reaction and have really severe to kind of mild behaviors, but still something that we need to change or try to replace with a safer behavior a lot of the time. It is important to start by saying that behavior is communication. So there's a quote where it says that no child wakes up wanting to be a jerk. And I truly believe that. Maybe some teenagers sometimes, if they're really mad at you, might want to try to ruin their day. But most children do not want to ruin someone's day. They don't go into the day saying, hey, I don't feel like sharing today. I'm going to tantrum every time someone shares with me because I like it and I want to make everybody else miserable. No, that's not it at all. First off, that would take a lot of frontal lobe that isn't developed thinking to make all those assumptions and plan out all those processes. And that's not what is happening most of the time, pretty much all of the time, but maybe there's an example out there. But so behavior is communication. If your child is having behaviors, you want to try to be that detective. Figure out what it is, and if there's a way that you can change the environment, change what they have to do to make them more successful, you're going to want to set them up for that because you want to support them. We can't always know what the trigger is, or the trigger might be something that we can't control. They have to ride the bus to school. You have to get to work at a certain time. You need them to get on that bus. There is no time for 20 minutes stalling, crying, all of that. It is just a fact. They have to get on that bus at a certain time. So we can't always change the environment. But is there a favorite stuffed animal they could take on the bus? Is that a time when maybe we want to give them a cell phone or a tablet to play a game because their bus ride is really long? Or can we give them a blanket because it's a long bus ride and they might want to take a nap on it? Is there a way, can we use a visual timer so they know when the bus is coming and they know they need to get on it, which might help prepare them for this thing that they don't want to happen? So I can hear people already saying, but they have to do it. Like, I can't make everything perfect for them. I get that. But if it is something that is cold in the house and they're running around to try to keep their heat up, we can turn maybe down or up the AC, down the AC, or try to put a sweatshirt on them. Something like that we can control. That is what I'm talking about. I know there are things we can't control. But when your child is having a behavior, the first thing you need to do, and it might be one of the hardest, is to remain calm. So it's called co-regulation. If I am calm, then I am subconsciously, the kid isn't necessarily conscious of what's happening, going to be able to calm them down. However, if I come in saying, I can't believe you just spilled your milk. Why did you do that? What are you doing? That is going to escalate your child. You're using a lot of language. You're using an angry tone. You're pointing. Your facial expressions look mad. It is going to make the situation worse. So an elevated adult cannot calm down an elevated child. So you really want, even though your blood may be boiling, they might have done something that is completely gross to you. I've worked with a couple kids who would smear their feces, and I get it, the smell, the mess, everything. It was really hard. But the one thing we had to do was remain calm. Even though on the inside you might be freaking out, try to remain calm. Because if your energy spikes, their energy is going to spike. You can think of it as if you're in if you're in a fight with your significant other or a family member and you tell them what's going on and they start yelling back at you, you're mostly going to start yelling back at them or walk out. Like, you're done. If they increase the energy, it really puts you off, or it gets it to a place where it's going to escalate the behavior. Think about if you're at a sporting event and the crowd, and somebody says something in the crowd about the other team, and then one guy says, "Oh yeah, da, 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 da," and then the other girls get involved and the guys, and now it's like this big fight. It's because everybody's mentality jumped on that anger. Everybody wanted to be part of it, whether consciously or subconsciously. They went to where the energy was, and the energy was all negative. So if you can really try to think about the behavior, what caused it? What was it that made this behavior happen? If it was an accident and the child spilled, okay, let's get some stuff, let's clean it up. Still not the best, not the best situation, but we can fix this. If it's something more serious, like the smearing of the feces, okay, well, what was the cause? Did they have to go and we didn't get them to the toilet on time? Or did their diaper come off? And then they thought it was Play Doh, or they thought it was something else. Did they not realize it? Because then if you think, oh my gosh, I didn't put the diaper on right earlier. And then it does look like that brown Play Doh that we have. I'm sorry, this is a gross example, but it's just an extreme one. You're going to come at that with a more empathetic approach and a more not as angry of like, just you're still going to be frustrated and you're still going to be upset, which you absolutely should be, but you're not going to come at that child and say, clean that up right now. What are you thinking? What are you doing? It's not going to help. It's going to scare your child, or it's going to escalate them to now they're going to start throwing it at you because they want you out of their space. And then it gets to a whole other level. So kind of two extreme examples, from accidentally spilling something to a behavior that is hopefully not happening, but it does happen. And I've been in those situations. So it's hard. But remember, you need to help them co-regulate. Their lid has been flipped. So they are in fight, flight, or freeze mode. They cannot handle anything else right now. If you can calm them down by keeping yourself calm, that lid's going to start and come down a little bit. And then you can get a more positive conversation or whatever's going to happen next from that. So big feelings can be scary to kids, and kids can't control them. So it is scary. I have had students that would headbang when they got upset, and that's a really scary behavior because it could really do some damage. So obviously, you always want to keep the child safe, number one priority. But if they're doing something that you don't like, and you're like, oh, I can't take it, and you walk out of the room, that's not going to help, because now that child is alone and needs to regulate themselves, which is probably very difficult. So, not shaming, because I have been there where I'm like, I need to tap out. I got to tap out. But, and if you're alone, if you're a single parent and you're alone and you can't tap out, count to 10. Find out strategies that will work for you to help you in those moments. Because if a child is safe and they are, so no headbanging, no self-injurious behavior, not trying to hit you, and they have kind of stopped the tantrum, if you're like, and walk away, then there's no carryover to help figure out, what do we do next? How do we stop this behavior from happening again? We need to keep them feeling safe. So if you walk away, that's going to signal to them, I scared my mom. I'm not good. I'm bad. And all these things that they might not even have the language for, but internally they are going to retreat even more and isolate. So when these big scary moments happen and these big feelings, once they're safe or clean, maybe, then it's important to show them that you still love them. You still care for them, and that you're going to work through, like, that was a hard moment. That was really hard. If they have less language, this is when body language is huge. You don't want to look at them like they pick up on that. If you come at them with a very neutral facial expression, you want to sit down at their level so you're not above them talking to them. You really want to help them regulate their body and realize that it's okay. You're still there and you're going to get through it. So that was kind of a lot, but we're going to go back over what happens in a crisis. So when your amygdala gives that response of, uh-oh, fight, flight, or freeze, what are you going to do? It might be different things at different times, or different children, excuse me, might have the same reaction. So, for example, I will use my own children. When my son gets upset, if his sister even annoys him a little bit, or if something doesn't go his way, he is a fighter. He will start and punch me. He'll try to beat up his sister. He's looking for a fight. And now that I know this and I figured that out about him, I can prep myself where it's like, hey, do we need to go outside and shoot some basketballs or throw or kick the soccer ball at the garage door to get that out? Because his energy is going to immediately, and I need to get him calm to get him regulated real quick. But his go-to is going to send off signals that he needs to fight. And I don't want him hurting me. I don't want him hurting his sister or himself. So it's important for me to be prepared for, uh-oh, this is going south. What am I going to do? Because his lid's going to flip and I'm going to need to regulate that. Versus my daughter, who is a flight. She will run. She doesn't want to talk to anybody. She doesn't want to see anybody. She will take off. And so a lot of children will elope, which is a very scary behavior. So something you can do if you know your child is an eloper and you see the triggers starting to build and you know they're going to run soon, and I'm sure you know it, or if you don't, you will learn it real quick after listening to this presentation, but find a safe spot. In the school that I work at, they have boxes in the hallway, and sometimes they write the kid's name on it. And if something happens where they need to get away, they train the kids or teach them that you can run here. This is acceptable behavior for us. Obviously, we don't want them eloping from the classroom, but if it's going to happen, then that's exactly where a teacher can go. It's better than them getting outside the building and running all over and making a big thing. They can run to their safe spot and be there to calm down. An adult will come meet them there to help them with the co-regulation. And that is really helpful. For my daughter, it's immediately go to your room. If something is starting to trigger her, I'm like, go, just get up there. And it's not that I'm trying to get rid of her, but I know her impulse is going to take over. So I want to tell her, it's okay. You can run. I'll be right behind you. You got this. Does she let me in her room right away? No, she might not want it, but she knows I'm there. I might like tap my finger on the door or maybe position myself so she can kind of see me, because that is something that I have taught her is a safe behavior versus taking off and hiding in the house isn't helping. Now I'm stressed because I'm looking for you and I'm worried about you. So if your child is an eloper, maybe there's a spot, maybe there's a calm down corner you can make in your house. Maybe there's a really neutral place. A lot of times I found that kids love small spaces. So maybe you can make a little tent or under a dining room table, put a tablecloth. And then when they start to get upset, be like, let's go to the cozy spot. Let's go underneath the table where it's nice and quiet and we'll calm down together. We have a student, I worked with a student who we got to the point, he would flap his body, he would fall to the ground, he would try to hit you and kick you. And it became a point that the second he calmed down, we would always say, are you going to calm down in your area or in the break room? Because it wasn't an option to stay where he was because he was probably in the middle of the classroom and there was other kids learning and stuff going on. And a lot of times in the beginning, he would have no response or he would be frustrated. We might have to put like a protection mat around him because a lot of times the triggers can trigger somebody else then, So it became, we did it enough times that then eventually he got to choose, which gave him some control and helped get his lid down a little bit because he knew, okay, I'm ready to calm down in the break room, or I'm ready to go to my area. I'm ready to get to a safe spot and calm my body. And a teacher will help me with that because that's okay that I just hit you 5 times. Even if I'm really frustrated, I'm remaining calm on the outside. I'm a pretty good actress, guys. But all joking aside, it is important to try to figure out, a lot of times kids will have patterns. And if you find the pattern, you can try to get that into a pattern that you want. Not necessarily always controlling, but finding a way to make it so it is the safest and it is the quickest, because eventually we want these behaviors to decrease and decrease and decrease. And then the other one is freeze. Some kids go almost catatonic. And I will admit, when my ex-husband decided to leave, I was in a freeze state for a while. I just shut down. I was going through the motions, but it was really hard for me. So I know that I'm a freezer. If something really big happens, I can look like I'm going through it, but really inside I'm just stopped. Like I'm not ready to handle it until I'm ready to handle it. So if your child is a freezer, then they might look like they're okay, but they need more support. They need more of that talking after that, kind of conversation about what happened. How are you feeling? What can we do differently? And once again, that's if their language is at that level. We're not going to expect them to be able to have a full conversation if they're really just using one word utterances. We might be able to talk to them because their receptive language, their understanding is higher, but we're not going to make it with, hey, I'm going to talk and then you have to talk back. No, I'm just going to talk. I'm going to talk slow. I'm going to use less language, and hopefully we can kind of help work through this together. So another example I have is I have been scratched a lot in my career, and I had a student that would just scratch and pinch you. And sometimes it almost seemed like he just liked the pinching, and it would be really gentle on my skin and it wouldn't be a big deal. But if there was a day where he was starting to break skin and stuff, I am not going to escalate him more. His behavior of scratching me is not necessarily his fault. He is communicating with me because he was a non-speaking student and pretty low level receptive skills at this time. And he would scratch me. And a lot of times people would say, stop that, don't scratch, don't scratch, don't scratch. And I did some training of don't say that. When you say don't, and then a thing you don't want to happen, that child processes scratch. And they think it's okay, they're telling me to scratch. They don't necessarily process the negation. So we might say, nice hands. But the biggest thing I'm going to do is I'm going to step back, because it's obviously something I'm doing in the environment that started from here and now is getting aggressive. So I'm not going to let that behavior escalate and let him hurt me or hurt himself and get so worked up. I'm going to take a step back and watch what he does. If he still is coming after me or really heightened, then I might need to just leave the room. And then if he still is I'll stay in the other room. If he still is extremely heightened, and I'll tap out, obviously, I'll tell another adult, hey, I seem to be upsetting him. Maybe it's a perfume I'm wearing or something I didn't even notice I did differently. But I'm going to have another adult watch him. And if he calms down, great. We just did the digging and we just figured out it's something about me or my lesson or what I was planning to do for the day. He did not like that. He did not want me in his space. If he would allow his teaching assistant in his area, okay, I might be done for the day. And I might say, I'm going to call it, or I'll come back in a little while. Whatever's going on, he's frustrated with me. Or, sorry, my voice is starting to get out of me. Or I might try to come back in, and instead of bringing my bag and all my things, I might just kind of come and be near him to see, okay, he's tolerating me in his space. So it might not be my smell. It might not be my look. Check my energy. Did I get upset? Did I make a reaction when he was scratching me? So I'm going to take a step back. Okay, maybe now he lets me in his space and whatnot. And what is he doing? This student, for example, was looking at a book, and he was looking at it upside down. So all I started doing was saying, oh, Cookie Monster. I see Cookie Monster. We want cookies. And will he tolerate me speaking to him? And he did. So I never was able to figure out what I did that day that made him scratch. It could have been something in the environment that didn't even have to do with me, but I just happened to be the closest one. But I didn't let it escalate. I took myself out of the situation to make sure that whatever was setting him off might be able to stop. So we have, as the adult, you have a more functioning executive function part of your brain, your prefrontal cortex. It's where we can make more complicated decisions and have more complex language. And so as the adult, you have to be the one to try to figure out how to handle the situation. Like I said, if I went in there, I was like, stop scratching me, not obviously I wouldn't hit him, but like, not nice, not nice. And that might have escalated it. He might have been like, stop yelling at me. Like, now I'm really angry, when it could have just been that I might have been blocking the light, and he really wanted the light hitting him in a certain angle, and the where I was standing was upsetting him. I don't know. And I still don't know. And that's okay. But I'm going to be very aware every time I work with that student to watch for triggers. And I could have escalated that situation by staying there and trying to control everything. It's okay to take a step back and look at the situation from a different angle and see if there's something you can change to stop it from escalating. We can't always stop it, like I said before. So I have another student who, or had another student who hated sharing. So we knew sharing was going to be a trigger. And we didn't stop him from sharing, but we prepped him of, hey, you're going to have to share. Hey, you're going to have to share. And when he started sharing, he still in the beginning had lots of behaviors. He would hit you. He would really be very dysregulated and very unsafe. So our goal was to always keep him safe, obviously, but then work through it with him of, the timer went off, you get your toy back. And then we slowly increased the amount of time that he had to share. And we always did it with a teacher, because you don't want to make another student or a sibling a target. So if sharing is a really big problem in your house, practice sharing at home, because if you know, all right, my kid is a fighter, so when his lid gets flipped, he's going to fight. So who's going to be the target? Probably the sibling if it's sharing. So you might come up with situations when you're ready for him, and you can be nice and calm to say, hey, can I try playing that Switch? Can I play the Switch? And he'll say no. So you might say, okay, I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and then I'm going to try it for 30 seconds. And that might set off a behavior, but you still need to teach the skill. So I'm going to maybe be prepared to be calm and take the Switch. If they come at you and hit you, you want to protect yourself. You want to protect them, but then show them, I got 30 seconds. Here you go. And let the timer go. And even if you have to play and kind of block yourself from being hit, second that timer goes off, here's your Switch back. Am I going to yell at them for hitting me? No, because I set this up. I knew that this was going to be really hard, and I'm trying to increase his capacity to do it. So I am not going to yell and reprimand for that hitting behavior. But next time, when I ask him to share with me for 30 seconds again, I might say, this time we're going to have really gentle hands and you can watch me play. And they might not feel the need to hit, because they've learned that this is only going to last so long. And then I'll get back what I want. This is a way to kind of expand on their skills. Wherever you are in the continuum, this might not work for you. So if you have a child that is really non-speaking, trouble with receptive language, and really basic play skills, this might not be the level that you want to work at to get through these behaviors. But for our older kids, or our kids who have some reasoning skills, this might be a good way to try and help them when crises happen, of feeling safe and knowing that there's a plan in place for them. And you've taught it, you've done a little sabotage, because a lot of times kids go into crisis like that. And it's like, what just happened? Everything seemed fine. And now all of a sudden, like, there's biting, there's scratching, there's hitting. What happened in the environment? And you don't have time to think about it. So if you've already kind of set up the situation of, hey, when you get mad, instead of hitting, let's just sit next to me and wait, or let's hit a pillow. Like, let's throw pillows. My son will throw pillows at the wall if it's winter and we can't go outside. But you want to try to be proactive because these are big, scary feelings. And they're trying to communicate something with you, whether they can tell you it or not. The older kids will tell you exactly what's going on. And if you can stay calm and figure out ways to teach them better behaviors, because right now their lid is flipped. This is their reaction. But next time, if they're teetering and hey, it looks like you're gonna get mad real soon. What are we gonna do about it? All right, get those pillows ready because here's your pillow. They might be able, if they've learned and practiced this routine, to be able to pick up the pillows and start throwing them instead of whacking you with their fist. Not going to work every time. And I do have to say as a disclaimer, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a behavior specialist. So if somebody out there wants to tell me I'm completely wrong and this is horrible information, this is the information that has worked for me or I have been taught over the years. So I am definitely open to hearing all opinions. This might not work for everyone, but these are suggestions. These are things that have worked for my family or worked for the families that I've worked with, the students I've worked with. And as I've said before, take what works for you and forget the rest or give the rest to somebody else. But hopefully, after talking about this, you can go into when your child is having a behavior into it a little different. And a lot of times I get my spouse likes to yell and I don't. What do we do? This is why we talked about that in that very first lesson, knowing your demeanor, knowing your reactions, because now you can go back and be like, when I'm aggressive and I'm yelling, that might not be the best thing. So not shaming, just teaching of, okay, I need to work on that on myself so I can better help them regulate. Now you can be aggressive if somebody pulls in front of you in a car, be safe, but you might start swearing or being really upset about that. That might be an okay time where I'm not trying to change you. You're not going to change, and that's okay. But with your child, swearing and yelling is not going to be the best thing. So if you know yourself and you know your child, you can be more proactive and you can try to help hopefully lessen these behaviors, decrease them, or make them so they're not so intense. I witnessed things on Zoom that I wish I hadn't seen, parents getting hit or running away from their children because it was scary. And nobody wants that. So think about ways that you can help. You can't change your child, but you can try to help teach them. And it's not going to happen overnight. If your child has a behavior tomorrow and you're like, but Maggie, I'm calm. But I said I said nice. I stopped talking so much. I had a neutral facial expression, and they still had a crisis for 30 minutes. Okay, but now maybe the next time it'll be 28 minutes. We have to go start small. This is not something that we can learn overnight or that your child is going to learn overnight. And so behaviors are going to happen. We need to help regulate them. So what happens now? Your child has a behavior, and what do we do about it after the consequence? Find out in the next lesson. See you in the next lesson. Bye.